So once I've got the ground colour down, this really nice bright colour here, and I've drawn out the basic shape of the apple, I've got this line in here which is a shadow line where the light goes away from the form. You can see it here on the reference image. You can start to see that's where this line is hitting here. I've also very lightly marked out where the highlight is on the actual apple, and I've got this straighter line here which is the top of the apple. So the circle shape is very faintly just in there, so just work within that and then you can start to judge your shape within the whole of the piece. So the first thing I'm going to do is just block out some of this background just so it's easier for us to judge the colour. Nice bit of stiffness for moving the actual paint around, and it's going to be great for this first blocking in stage of this painting. I'm using a short handle because I'm working quite closely to the canvas, so it's more like a pencil really in terms of its actual size when you're working with it. So out of screen I've got some kitchen roll or paper towel where I can just dampen off and put my water into the actual brush to start to change the consistency of the paint, and I've also got a water pot just out of shot that I can add water to change the consistency of the paint. Just going to put out a bit of titanium white, and this is a touch of ultramarine blue. So I've dipped the end of the brush into some water, so this is just the raw umber to start with. I'm just going to really watery wash that on. You see how when I work to the edge I'm using the side of the filbert so I can go into the edge, but I'm not going straight up to it. It keeps it nice and soft. So I'm just doing this really just to get my eye tuned into the tones that we're looking at and start to check any shapes in the apple. So I keep on dipping in it to the water just so I get a nice consistency, and as you get closer to the tone that you're after, so the tone is just how light or how dark that mix is, you can start to go thicker as you get more confident with that tone. I'm just adding a touch of the ultramarine blue, and this will cool it down so it'll be nice and cool in the foreground. I'm still leaving odd bits of the underpainting to it. I might darken it off later, but it's just to give you that bit of movement into the background of the painting. So now you can just darken down that tone a bit. Still just with the raw umber and the ultramarine blue. Just making that a little bit bluer for this side of the painting. So now just swap into a rounder brush. Any small round brush is absolutely fine, just so you can get a nice point to it to put in some of the darker areas on the stalk. So now just add a bit more of the blue into that raw umber to get this really nice darkest tone. Touch of water on the brush. And just start to paint that in the very darkest area that would form the cast shadow. It slightly lightens as it gets to the end of the car shadow. And then it softens off even more. Just keep that edge sharp but soft. Keeping this quite thin, the application, because we want some of that warmth, well, some of the yellow colour underneath to subtly come through. So now when you've got that basic form in, you can start to look more closely at the apple and start to see any differences in hue, as in the warmer areas here. You can then start to add thinner layers on top, just so you get that sense of form in your painting. So now just with the raw umber and the yellow, I can just look at the form core shadow, the darkest part here, and just emphasize that a bit more. And then just look for any of that reflected light again that could just be put in a little bit stronger with a bit thicker paint.